tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns. I'm your host, and the name of my show is Voices Not Yet Heard. Now, if you're watching me now, I'm live. If you watch me a little bit later, it'll probably be a rebroadcast. You know, I was thinking over the past couple of days about what a privilege it is to be in this country, you know, and I get so upset. Now they've got these, I call them useless idiots that are running around the country talking about and demonstrating that this is not my president. Well, you know, he is everyone's president. He's a president for all. People are not giving Donald Trump his due, you know. He's doing absolutely everything that he said he would do, absolutely everything. And we have to give this man a chance. He's been in 2 months, and already he's done more than Obama did in 8 years, I think. And he's got one of the best cabinets I've ever seen. Let's dream a little bit here now. Can you imagine what would happen in this country if we lived by the will of the people? That's what the founding fathers of this great company intended. Now, I really do think that it seems so far-fetched when you've got people that are running around demonstrating. You people have to realize you lost the election. Nothing is going to happen because you're out there demonstrating. And to me, you're a liability, okay? And we don't need any other liabilities in these countries. You people have to wake up, get up, shut up. You know, if you don't like what's going on in this great country of ours, why don't you go live in a third world country and see what happens after a while? Now, I've got Gary Miguel back with me today, and I tell you, when he comes, we always have a great show. Gary, welcome back, buddy.
Good to be here.
And we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about these useless idiots, which drive me absolutely crazy, and we're going to talk about a few other things, too. So what do you think, Gary?
Well, I think they're becoming more and more irrelevant in terms of people's minds, and it gets smaller and smaller, and not only physically, but also in the sense that people just aren't paying that much attention.
Well, you know, if you look at it, the Republican Party, we have the House, we have the Senate,
Right.
We obviously have the executive,
Right.
and tell you the truth, we have the judicial.
Right.
You know, we're gonna have an appointee here, and so nothing is going to change. Whatever these people are doing, it's not going to change anything.
Well,
you know?
yeah, true. And what they do, though, by doing it the way they're doing, is actually having the opposite effect. And so, in one side of me says, well, I hope they keep doing and showing people over and over just how stupid they are, you know, how un-American they are.
Yeah, thank you. How un-American they
How
are.
how lack of accountability, responsibility they are, you know, and then you, by doing that, focusing on it a little bit, to the point to where you say, well, I'm glad you told me all about yourself, because now I know.
Yeah, I know that you're a useless idiot.
Yeah.
You know, and Gary and I talked about this before, and we're going to talk about it again on the show. I'm truly, truly hoping that there's something can be done by the First Amendment. You know, maybe there's a revision. I don't know what can be done. I'm not learned in that, but I realize that something must be done, because Donald Trump, during the campaign and even now, has talked about the fake news, the crooked media, and that is the voice, in a sense, that these people are using. They listen to the media, and they act on the media.
Well, but let's just go a little step further with that.
Good.
And I guess I'm not as worried about it in this regard, because every time they do that, more and more people shun them or want to get away from them.
Sure.
And we're talking about a lot of former people that was them that woke up. Okay.
To me, they're a loud minority. They're certainly not the majority, because we're the majority.
Well,
we're the
they
ones
are. I mean, if you're to shake it all down right now, I don't even know if it would be, well, I doubt if it would be even 25% of the population.
And they're getting paid, Gary.
And they're getting paid.
They're getting paid.
It's
you
an
know?
organized propaganda thing that's been going on for really 60 to 70 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just now getting to where people are, it's exposed to where people see what
This
it is.
this election brought all this out.
Those
you know?
people, that's right, because those people were there all along. They were there 30 years
Yes,
ago.
absolutely.
You know, you just didn't recognize them what they were. But now you kind of, oh, I see what they are. See? And so I don't know, I kind of look at it on the other side of it and I say, well, you know, it's kind of nice that some of those guys are really showing the American people who they really are. And then you ask yourself the question, do I want to be one of them? Or do I want my family to be one of them? Or do I want my teachers to be one of them? And then you go on. And then pretty soon, do I really want my politician to be one of them?
And you and I, we've talked about that. We have.
And you
We've
never
talked-
asked that question before, but now you're starting to ask it.
Oh yeah, and people are starting to act.
That's right.
And they're starting to wake up and realize just who these people are.
And there's evidence of that in a smaller way, and I'll just use one as an example. These companies that boycotted Ivanka Trump's perfume as an example.
Oh yeah.
It works in reverse.
Oh, she's selling it
Number
like
one.
must. Yeah, her stuff, and I am so happy to hear that.
Well, how
you know?
about the girl that went down there to that? It was, I think it was the Emmy Awards, and she wears that Trump dress.
Oh, wasn't that great?
Her album goes from non-existent to number one. I mean, I don't think she's very
Hey,
good
you know
singer,
what? It
but-
comes down to economics in this great country
Well,
that we live in.
and
People, like Gary said, people are going to start waking up, realizing, get behind Trump. You know, if you know, and Trump loves this. He loves
Right.
capitalism anyway.
Right.
So get behind Donald Trump,
Right.
promote your business, promote yourself. Look what's happening.
Well,
this is America.
They were going to boycott his wine. Well, they are boycotting certain places back there in Virginia, boycotting his wine. The minute they did that, he doesn't have enough wine to sell.
Don't
see?
you love it? I absolutely love
and
it.
this is what
Yeah.
the press is so caught up in their arrogance and their elitism that they can't see it.
No,
And
they
they're-
just
they're
keep on keeping
self-importance.
on.
Yeah, they can't understand. Well,
They're going to self-destruct.
well, they
you
are.
know-
It's funny to me to watch them do it every day.
Exactly.
You know,
I
so-
love what Sean Hannity said months ago, and he said, journalism in this country is dead. And it isn't. It's not what it used to be. You know, I remember when I was young, I was thinking, man, this is a position I'd like to do. And, you know, now I don't want to, you know, it's because they're getting such a bad reputation
Right.
as liars. They don't
Right.
tell the truth. That's why I think something has to be done. They've taken advantage of the First Amendment.
Well, they have, and there's something about that may end up being done, where if in fact you're hurting somebody that's
Yeah.
innocent, right, because of your speech. Well,
Which they have,
Well, that
you
gets
know.
back down. Can I holler fire in a full theater? You know.
Yeah.
And that was proven to be something you cannot do legally do, right? Well, that's kind of like that.
Yeah.
But as far as the people that are they're protesting the most, and I don't call it protesting, I'll call it rioting.
That's exactly what it is.
And once you define it as rioting, and that's exactly what it is, then you say to yourself, well, what am I doing condoning somebody that riots?
You know,
I feel pretty stupid.
You recall you were on my show that time when I made the statement. I said these people are not protesters. They are not demonstrators. They are rioters.
Right.
Mahatma Gandhi in 1948 was a demonstrator. He demonstrated against the great British Empire.
Right.
20 years later, Martin Luther King
Right.
was not a rioter. He was a demonstrator, a protester against civil injustice. Those people were demonstrators. These people are rioters.
Oh,
and
they're-
anytime you get out and you start hurting our law enforcement agents, you start destroying American property, then your butt needs to go to jail.
Well, you know, there's no way that you could possibly try and lump. It's almost it's not only embarrassing to do so, but it's almost, I don't know, sacrilege to try to lump Martin Luther King with Black Lives Matter.
Oh, absolutely not.
I mean,
you
see
know,
what
they're
I
a
mean?
violent
And,
organization,
you
let's
know,
face it.
his niece is very outspoken about that, and I'm really proud of her.
Me too.
And there's a lot of people that are waking up or have woke up. But geez, I look back at some of the original civil rights people at that time. Well, there's no comparison to them. To
No,
what
absolutely. Well, the whole Democratic Party, and you said this earlier on an earlier one of my shows when you were here, that, you know, we're not looking at the same Democratic Party that we
No.
looked at in the 60s, in the 50s. It's a totally different Democratic Party.
Totally
different.
And quite frankly, so do the Republicans.
Sure.
Become different in the sense that maybe they're more recognized. But let me tell you
Excuse me.
that elite establishment, which is now both Democrat and Republican, which is called the deep state, which is really it's been the country's being run without representation.
Yeah.
Because of the bureaucrats, right? Well, and they condone. They're globalists.
Yes.
Well, so that's not the same Republican Party that it
No.
was 50 years ago either.
No,
Because
it's
they
not.
weren't
They're both
globalists, they were nationalists.
Yeah.
Guys like Eisenhower, JFK, Reagan, and so forth, you know. So, but one thing about the journalists, which it's almost, you could just almost just pick one out like that, right? But here's the thing about those guys. They are not journalists, they're propagandists.
That makes sense.
They're
That makes sense,
And
Gary.
so what we have is all this media, called major media, owned by the globalists, and they're feeding these people that
Sure they are.
that broadcast the news and so forth. They feed them, they pay them, they own them. They're the hired hands, and they teach them, or not teach them, but they
They
expect
tell them. They tell them.
Tell
what the-
them,
yeah.
and it's propaganda.
Sure.
It's not the truth. It's not learning. It's not becoming informed.
We saw a good case
you
of
know.
this during the campaign.
We're seeing it,
yeah,
man, almost
and-
daily. In fact, just today, or yesterday, I think it was, I lost track of that, but WikiLeaks released hours and hours of tape of CNN. How they
Oh, I
were,
just heard a little bit of that
well,
this morning.
what it is, Ray, it's how they purposely slanted the agenda to promote their agenda, slanted
Sure.
lied right out
Oh,
about
absolutely.
it. So you're going to tell me those are journalists? No, those are propagandists.
And it kills me that they abuse the First Amendment for their own personal gain, and
I mean,
that's
it's
what they're
imagine
doing.
the country's still standing with
Yeah.
that kind of propaganda.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, I'll tell you another one's even I think more pervasive, or just as much. And I think it's more because you affect minds young, and that's the education people.
Oh my gosh.
And I've got education people in my family. You do too, but there are some that aren't what is the ones that screaming or hollers or is noticed the most, right?
Absolutely.
Let me tell you, they're not teachers, they're not educators. Let me tell you what they are. They're indoctrinators. There's a big difference.
I love this guy.
Go
That
look
is a
up the word
great term. Yeah,
indoctrination.
that
Go
is a
look up the
great
word
term.
propaganda, and
Yeah.
then tell me which one best describes the education system based on what you're seeing.
That's
coming
why,
out of there.
you know what? And that's why these useless idiots, and I love calling them that because, damn it, that's what they are. That's why they're so against DeVoe. They're so
Of
against
course,
her. You know?
absolutely. I mean, my Lord, and that's why more people become even more for her. It doesn't do them any good to talk against her because I didn't know that gal for 10 cents. Did you?
No, not at all.
Yeah, but when I started seeing who was talking against that, just makes me more.
You
for
probably
that.
did like I did. You went and you did a little due
Yeah,
diligence on this
right.
lady, and I did, and I went, whoa, did he pick the right person
Well,
for this?
there's a reason why I picked the right person. Now, here's something that I thought about, Ray. That Trump, you can't keep up with it.
No.
I mean, I'm sitting there on the internet, sitting there dead in my seat, and I can't keep up with it, right? Well, nobody else can either.
That's what Sandra said. She said, this guy's 70 years old and he acts like he's 40.
Well, you can't keep
He's
up
tireless. He's tireless.
with it. I heard it today. How does he conduct the Oval Office? It's open.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of people that can come in. He doesn't have time to fool around. Well, let's set up a meeting. Let's set up an appointment. Right? But it's the people that have business there.
Yeah.
It's not just people walking down the street. But I mean, they don't. The people, the staff are working there. I mean, it moves so fast. It just
Gary, I
can't
think
go
of little things like we should be counting
Oh,
America
it's-
should
well,
be
and they
counting
are.
our blessings to have Donald Trump in the Oval Office.
Well,
this
they-
is a blessing for this great nation. People wake up and realize that.
They are, Ray. It's just that we don't see them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's all.
Yeah.
I've quit watching. I've told you this. I've quit watching the news
I've
on
got
there.
to. I've got to be smart like you. I
know?
keep watching it. I don't watch CNN anymore. Just once in a while, I'll click on it. Sandra will call and say, "Guess what this is?"
Well,
But
why
it's
would you?
always yeah.
Why
it
would
doesn't
you
make
when
any
you know
sense.
there's about a 99% chance that what you are going to hear is not the truth. So why
It's
do you want to
always
sit there?
yeah. And I
I mean, if I want fairy tales, I'll go to the movie house and watch cartoon.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
At least
the
I
other
can
night. I
laugh
thought, I'm watching this thing. I said, you know what? I might as well be watching Daffy Duck. At least I'm going to laugh or something, you know?
Yeah, or something like. But these people, I mean, I just have not only lost. Oh, I didn't. I guess I didn't have a real high regard for some time, going clear back to when I became conscious of what was going on, like with the Vietnam War and the lies were coming out, because I knew what the truth was.
Yeah.
And
Of course you did.
You know, and so just like John McCain.
Oh, my goodness.
God, I mean, if there is
he won't shut up.
Well,
I mean,
if there's not an example of some guy, I told you this before, he had his life saved when he got shot down.
I want you to say that
You
again.
know?
This is something that people don't know. I love this story.
Because
I mean,
he-
Gary said he was an absolutely terrible
Oh,
pilot,
he's
and if he
horrible.
was,
And the
Gary
sit-
is a pilot,
The
by the way.
situation where he got shot down, he was not supposed to be flying at that altitude. In other words, you go there, when you sit there and pre-brief for a mission, they tell you what you're going to do on your deal. Well, they tell him what, and everybody follows that mission plan, right? And you get that. You get the briefing of the mission every about an hour before you go out, right? They ask questions, whatever. He did not fly that mission like it was supposed to have been in the first place.
See, people don't know this.
He was
This is
at a
amazing.
lower altitude than where he was supposed to be.
Which is why he got shot down,
Which
Gary?
is why he got shot down. Okay, now, you got shot down, you got trouble with your plane. You position your airplane in a certain way so that when you eject, your chances of getting hurt are very slim.
Oh, okay.
He didn't do that. He ends up with broken bones in 2 arms and all this kind of stuff. I mean, the guy's an idiot. He's a flunky.
Everybody got all upset because Trump said the man was not a hero. Well, he's not a hero.
See, Trump
once you
knows what I'm saying, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. And I found that out after meeting you and listening to you about McCain. You know.
I mean, he was in that Hanoi. He was a canary. He was known as a songbird. That was his nickname.
Yeah.
Where do you think he got the name Songbird? Now, it wasn't because of his voice.
It was for singing.
It was for singing.
Yeah.
Like canaries.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think this is something you have to keep in mind. And I think once I say this, you're going to say, well, that makes it simple, okay? And that it was a question like that is, okay, all this is going on and all this with, they asked like Bannon and that previous or whatever his name is, you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, I know the guy that.
Those
that
are the
was,
two guys.
Yeah.
Okay, now they had him on there. And they asked them. Then they asked some others also, like that Kellyanne.
I saw part of that. Yeah.
Did you see that? Okay, now let's think about that for a little bit. Let's see if we can't figure this out.
Okay.
All right. Do you realize that Trump is not doing anything, not one thing, that he hasn't said in every single speech he ever gave?
Thank you.
He ever gave.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So let's say with rallies and other speeches that he gave a total of, say, 100 speeches. You go back over all those speeches, no matter where they were, what they were. He talks a little different, this and that. Says some things he shouldn't have said, maybe, or that upset people, you know. But that's not the point.
No, it's
The
not.
point is this. He said every single thing that he was going to do. And he said it every time.
Sure.
Okay, so now he's the president, okay? So why is anybody surprised at what he's doing?
You're right. Absolutely. He's doing that.
He's
And I've
doing
said that all
exactly
along.
this-
You and I've said that.
Yeah.
You know, let's take, for instance, this ban that everybody's up in the air about, you know. I mean,
He said-
the liberal media came in and said, we haven't had any problems from any one of these countries. Are you insane?
Right.
Iran is on that list. And there's been 24 known incidents about terrorists that have been banned, and that started with Obama.
Yeah.
Obama had that list. He had those same 7 countries.
Same 7 countries.
You know, but now that it's Trump, they're jumping all over him. It's just another excuse.
Well, you know, that's-
another reason.
But that's when that jumping all over him. I'm at first I kind of got upset. Now I don't even care. Okay, now if I don't care about how much somebody jumps on him, it tells me there's a lot more that's getting
You
like me.
doggone right. And I'm getting a little bit like you. I still get upset.
What does that make the ones that are sitting there with the big mouth hollering?
It makes them stupid, is what
Exactly,
it does.
and
you know?
more stupid. In fact, to the point where you didn't even listen to me
The
anymore.
useless
So
idiots.
you sit there and you say, "Boy, they got 250 riots." Went, "Oh, they did, Ray? Yeah, huh? I'll be darned. Did you hear about that?" Well, you told me,
Yeah.
but I don't care.
Yeah.
In other
Well, it's
words,
just like you're unique. I'm starting to become a lot more like you. Why listen to that stuff?
Why?
Listen to those liberal stations that's as
that's
you
giving
say,
you a false
it's all
deal.
propaganda.
Yeah, if they're telling you the truth, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know that
What if
they're-
they told the truth? They haven't told the truth
well,
since
Ray,
the beginning
you know
of the
that-
campaign.
I'll give you an example. One CNN. This is proven there. CNN gave Hillary a week before the election a 7% poll.
Mm-hmm.
That she was ahead by 7%.
I remember that.
You remember
Yeah.
that?
I remember when they said she was 7.
100% concocted. 100%. There was no poll like that.
Well, you wait a minute. You and you mentioned one time because I was getting frustrated and I was getting, oh my gosh, please don't let this crazy woman become the next president of the United States. And you said, Ray, think about this. And I got to pass this back to you people. This was on a show. Gary said, Trump is showing up at rallies of $50,000 to $100,000. Hillary Clinton is showing up to rallies that couldn't fill a baseball park. I mean, what do you think? What do the American people? That told me something. That's when I started really realizing that it was not what I heard through the media or read through the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or one of those locally owned newspapers owned by all these big shots.
Well, it just was. I'd go to that other deal, the alternate media, I guess, and I'd dig in there to see the different polls. I never really could find a poll. I
You
never could find
you called a landslide 3 weeks before the election, and look at the Electoral College. Look what happened.
And the only way I could see that being otherwise was the fraud would be so great which the fraud was great. It's being proven now.
Well, in the popular vote, it was certainly great. I mean, they had 3 or 4 people voting from other states.
Oh, I mean, Ray, just this state alone, California, they figured there was 2 million illegal people voted. 2
What
million.
does that tell you?
So you take 2 million off of there. You take 1 million off of here. You
People
take
voting twice.
500,000 off there. 2 million over there.
Yeah.
You add it all
Dead
up.
people voting.
Oh yeah, you add it all up. Like Trump won by a landslide, both the popular vote
and obviously the Electoral
Of
College.
course, we're not going to know that because there's no need to.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. And but I seen that. I'll never forget when I did see that 7 Clinton leading by 7, and I thought. I'm kind of thinking, well, why did they say she was leading by 3? I mean, 7.
Yeah.
So I went in immediately. I
And
said,
you knew
boom,
right
boom,
away.
boom, boom. Yeah, I knew right away. And she is, the thing is that she, and not just her, but I mean, the whole thing's corrupt. I mean, can you imagine now? They talk about, well, she was a poor candidate for the Democrats.
They didn't say that during the campaign.
Let me tell you, because she was the best candidate for the Democrats.
Absolutely.
Because she's the crooked, corrupt, and that's what they needed.
Yep.
You look at that, what they call the deep state, Republican and Democrat, they all needed Hillary Clinton.
Of course they
now,
did.
if you had to pick, and she was standing, let's say there was no parties, Republican or Democrat, it was all one, and you had those 16 people that Trump beat, but you put Hillary there. And then you ask me, who's the best candidate up there out of those 16? And I look up there, am I a Democrat or Republican, Ray? You said, well, you're a Democrat. Am I a Democrat or Republican? No, I think you're a Republican. I said, Ray, I'll tell you what I am. I'm a deep stater. I'm a globalist.
Yeah.
And there is absolutely no candidate up there better than Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now you've got a man running for president who is now president, thank God, who couldn't be bought by all these special interests and will not be bought by all these special
And what
interests.
made that possible was the public realizing enough is enough.
Waking up,
And
like you
waking
said
up.
it. Like you said.
It couldn't have happened otherwise. Now, if you take and figure what's happening with what Trump's doing right now, to put it in perspective so that you feel relaxed about it, he's taking what he has said over and over 100
And doing
times.
it, yes.
And doing it, and now they look all shocked.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use an analogy.
Okay.
Okay, when you was a kid, and your mother told you over and over and over not to do that, but you went ahead and did it. Well, then why are you so surprised that night when Dad gets home and he gives you a whooping?
That's right.
Why are you so
Absolutely.
surprised?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, your mother told you all day.
Exactly.
Well, then why are you surprised you're getting a whooping?
Good point.
And
Gary.
that's what these Democrats did.
Yeah.
And they surprised they got a whooping.
Yep. And they continue to get whipped. Good.
Well,
Maybe
because
they'll wake up.
because they're not Americans.
No.
They're un-American people, and that's the danger.
Yeah, it is dangerous, scary.
You know,
It is. It's scary.
And-
We're going to go ahead right now. We're going to take a little break, ladies and gentlemen. Gary and I'll be back, man. We're having so much fun. Every time he's on, time flies by. I love it. I wish we had a 3-hour show. We could certainly fill it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back here in 2 and 2. Okay, I'm back with Gary once again, and we're talking about my favorite subject, which happens to be Donald Trump, our great president. You know, somebody compared him to Ronald Reagan, and I think it might have been you, Gary, that said it. He is going to be another Ronald Reagan. He already another Ronald. He may be greater than Ronald Reagan. We are so blessed to have this man in the White House. And if you think about it, think about the exact opposite, what the alternative could have been, you know. And Gary had said this. That administration would have ran this country into bankruptcy. We were definitely headed that way. And so we are very, very fortunate, or toward communism, as we talked about.
right,
You know.
right. And the getting back to like his meeting he had today, you know, he had a bunch of CEOs from all over the country. In there, and I got a kick out of him on this one. It was Lockheed. It's a woman CEO they have, and Trump had negotiated with her earlier that day or whatever. But anyway, got her to knock $700 million off of
Oh my gosh.
that contract.
Yeah, because that's what he was worried about was the airplanes and how much it was going to cost.
The F-35.
Yeah.
And she reduced it. They negotiated $700 million.
That
Okay.
is substantial.
Now, what
Very
would have
substantial.
Hillary or Obama done if they got, just sign it.
Oh, of course he would have.
That's what they've been doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
They what is their forte? Spend.
Exactly.
You know,
They would
that's why
not-
we have a $19 trillion deficit right now.
Well, I'm
you
not
know?
going to argue with that lady. She's too much trouble, so I'll just sign it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not my money anyway.
Yeah.
So he knocked off $700 million there on that one, and then he had the
Pay attention to these things,
And
people.
then
You have to listen to what's going on.
And
The
then
man is doing what he said he was going to do.
I forget when he knocked off that Air Force One with Boeing.
Oh, I forgot. That was a biggie, too.
That was a
wasn't it?
biggie. Let me tell you how big it is. In 1 month, he has reduced our debt by $12 billion. Not million, billion.
That's 1 month. That's less
1
than,
month.
that's 30 days,
Yeah.
you know.
In 1 month, he's reduced our national debt by $12 billion. As far as, what he's cut out in spending is what
Yeah.
I should say. Yeah. So, so anyway, it's just like right now, he said he was going to go after those people that are illegal in this country.
And he's doing it. That's
And he's
what
doing
that's
it,
ICE,
right?
you know.
And he
they're-
said he's going to start with the criminals first, right? I had a kind of a cute deal this morning. And I thought I'd go into this coffee shop, you know.
Oh, that's your favorite place down
Yeah,
there.
every morning I go there. It's about 4:30 in the morning. I got my favorite gal there, that.
Oh, you go early, huh?
Well, it opens at 4:30 sometimes. I don't always make it at 4, but I mean, anyway, I go in there and it was just her and I, and another gal in there. She says, "Did you hear what they're doing?" She says, "That's not right." I said, "What are you talking about?" She says, "Well, they're going down to Walmart. The immigration is and taking pictures of people, to see if they're legal or not,
Yeah.
right?"
What's wrong with that?
And that's what I said. What's wrong with that? Oh, that's not right because they're not criminals. I said, well, some are. Yeah,
You're
but
doggone right,
some of them are
are.
not criminals. And I let her kind of get along with that. So she was implying, of course, and listen to that Univision. That's got to be the biggest.
Oh, my
propaganda.
gosh,
You know
yes.
what I mean? But anyway, she says, well, that's not because that's innocent people, and they're taking their pictures, making them seem like criminals. And I says, I want to ask you something. I said it like this. I said, how come you didn't ask me if I have my picture taken? She looked at me and she says, what do you mean? No, I want to know. When I walked in here, how come you didn't ask me? Why are you taking my picture right now? Because every one of these got cameras on all the 4 walls.
Yeah.
I said, you're taking my picture. You didn't ask me, did you? Nor did you put a sign that my picture was going to be
No,
taken.
you had no idea that it was
Exactly.
You just happened to know that, hey, those cameras are there for some reason.
That was about the end of the conversation.
I can see why.
Yeah, but anyway, they cut the amount of people this last month. The number of people crossing the border into the United States was cut 50%.
That's substantial,
Yeah,
Gary. That is
50%.
substantial. I keep thinking about that beautiful young lady that was killed by that idiot
Yeah.
that had been deported under the Obama administration 4 or 5 times and was back here, I think, the 5th. And something just happened in Denver.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
Well, I know something. I don't know about it, but I did hear about this. This gal, she was one of the proponents for these immigrants from the Mid East. You know, the what do they call them? I don't know. I call them mices, but they're not migrants coming in there, right? From the Mid East. You know, they're in Europe. It's ruining Europe. You know.
Yeah.
Well, she's one of those for that. So she invites one to spend. By God, I'm opening up my home for him. So she opened up her home for him, and they raped her.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me?
Can you imagine?
You know, people have to wake up. You know, ISIS told us before they're going to infiltrate through the refugee program. This thing in Denver, apparently this guy had just gotten out for the second time, and he killed somebody.
Oh yeah, I did read about that.
That was just last week. I heard about that. But we have to get these people. These people are criminals, and they're here illegally. We need to, and that's going to go a long ways toward purging these gangs. You know.
Well, that's what they're going after first.
Yeah.
You know, if illegal is legal. If you're a gang member and it's illegal in your district, whatever, to be a gang member, well, then I guess you're going to have to pay for that.
I love it. Trump said your days are numbered.
That's it.
I love that. You know,
Because
get rid of these idiots.
Because here's what you got to look at, Ray. You really do have to look at the people, which is fortunately is probably 95% of the people are good people. All they want is to live a life of safety, not worried about getting shot walking out of their front door. And
Exactly.
All that.
Exactly.
So don't we owe them people, those
Yes,
people
we do.
something?
Absolutely
I don't
we
care
do.
how poor they are. I don't care if it's in the middle of the inner city or the worst district in the world. Those people living there are still deserving to have a safe existence.
And like you said, that's all they want. They want to
Yeah.
be able to live a good life, work when they can,
Right.
and
Right.
take care of their children and send their children to schools. And and it's
Well, they
almost
want to
impossible.
enjoy life. They want to enjoy life.
The pursuit of happiness.
And you
ladies
can't do
gentlemen.
that when you're sitting there locked up in your own house, afraid to go outside because you're going to get shot, afraid to have your kids go out shot because they do get shot.
Absolutely,
So
they do.
don't you think then that you should be thinking, man, I'm sure thankful there is somebody that's come along that's going to make it so that I don't have to worry about sending my kid out.
You know,
to play.
you and I can't even imagine, Gary, the horrors that those people go through on a daily basis. There isn't one day that they have any peace of
It's
mind. I
horrible.
mean, you know, you probably have to pick a time that you go to the store to buy a loaf of bread or whatever.
Right. Oh, yeah,
You know, you
yeah.
have to make sure that you go probably before dark, you know.
Well, they're probably a place where most of them sleep, and so then you go then.
Yeah.
You figure that out.
Yeah.
But I don't. But why should you have to? Why should any American? We're talking about American.
Why
now.
should you have to-
Why
yeah.
should any American
Live
I don't
like
care
that.
where. Live like that.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we get rid of what's causing them to live like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's cut off
Yeah.
the head of the snake.
Absolutely. And you go to these places and you get rid of the gangs, and then but you have to offer them something, and what you have to offer.
I want to offer them jail time. is what I
Well,
wanna
of course
offer
you
'em.
do. But then you set up with not, because I've been to those programs, they're worthless. I mean, it's just a rotating door, you know. But what you have to do there is get into an indoctrination more like a military style, kind of like the way Roosevelt did with the CC program.
Yes. Yeah.
What you want to eat? You're at the soup line. Do you want to sit in the soup line, or do you want to work and eat 3 meals a day?
Yeah.
But you got to work.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll work.
Yeah.
That's what he did. I mean, some of the greatest works we got today was because of the CCC.
And what did that do? It pulled us out of the depression.
So you got a gang member there, and you say, I'm going to get you out of here, but you're going to have to work, and you're going to have to go through a training.
Yeah.
And the guy says, well, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, then good.
Yeah. We got a place for you.
Yeah, we'll put you in jail or
Yeah.
something like that, right? But now they have an opportunity. But what happens when those people that went out to that CC, out that road that was built from the Alaskan Highway and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that? Well, they learn skills, right?
Sure they did.
And they learn to be human beings. I mean, if you see a 14-year-old, 16-year-old, 18-year-old gang member, you look at. I mean, don't you? In one way, you're sitting there and you say you'd like to just knock his brains out.
Oh yeah, I've always thought that a good buggy lashing
Yeah.
would be good for half of them.
But
you know?
on the other side of it, you look, man, I feel sorry for that guy having to think that that's all he's supposed to be. So you change the thing around a little bit, and you're not going to. Of course, it's like anything else. There's nothing 100%, but you change a lot of people. I have talked to a lot of those kind of people. Not, I shouldn't say a lot. I've talked to quite a few, and it's interesting.
I would think you'd have a
when
great
I get
influence on these people.
one-on-one. I get one-on-one,
Yeah.
one-on-one. I'll tell you a heck of a program. I've talked about it before. Man, if I happen to be one of those people that's getting out of prison, and I want to straighten myself out. Man, I'd boogie right up to Alaska in a heartbeat. And I'd go
Listen
out
to
there
this,
on
ladies
a-
and gentlemen.
Yeah, you go out there for 90 days. You work 24/7, 12 hours a day. There's nothing for you to do on there
Yeah, well,
anyway.
you might as well be working, yeah.
But when you come out of there, man, you come out because you didn't spend a dime, and they save all that money, and they get paid well. I mean, I get people that I know walked out. So what'd you get out of it? 90 days, 50 grand.
Good grief.
So now they got money to come out and take and not have to steal anymore, not have to
sell drugs. Yeah.
Right. And then they got something that they could start a business with themselves.
There's opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, here, and it's opening up for opportunity. This is the greatest country in the world, and it's always been
Right.
built on prosperity. And with Donald Trump in the office, prosperity is back in this country, and take advantage of it. You know, I don't know why these idiots are out. Well, I do know why these idiots
Well,
are
yeah,
out
it's like this
demonstrating.
girl that I was talking about this morning was asking me about the, she didn't ask me if she could take my picture.
I love that.
But anyway, that gal, she swims the river, comes over here. She came over with her dad when she was 17, swam the river, come over here, got Americanized, got her citizenship and all this, right? And now she's 31, okay? She married a honky. That's not necessarily a requirement, but she did.
Love
But
the way
it
you
was
put
her.
that.
It was her requirement. And she told me why. But anyway, that lady now owns her and her husband, and they own, and they're both just working people, right? I mean, let's face it. She was there making burritos.
Uh-huh.
That's what she's still doing because she just wants to.
Yeah.
And her husband was driving a delivery truck. And now the two of them together own 22 homes.
What does that tell you?
And
This
she's
is
done
America.
that in 5 years.
Yeah, and look what, and if she can do it, anyone
she
can do
looks
it. The
around, she
opportunity
says, I don't
is
get
there.
it. All I see here is opportunity. How come these
Gary,
people, what's wrong with these people?
I am so excited about. I'm a small businessman.
Yeah.
I've already seen a difference in my business since Donald Trump has been in office. I'm going to have the best year I've ever had in 2017, and I know that. You know,
Yeah, and I just talked to Mike a while ago. He said, "Man, houses are selling, and
Sure.
everybody's." And in fact, the unemployment, filing for unemployment or something like that. It was the lowest in I forget how many years. You know, it's been.
the man
That
has
way.
not been in office 2 months
He's
yet.
only been in office, let's say 2 months.
Yeah, let's call it 2 months.
Do you
Yeah.
realize that the stock market is the highest ever been in the history of the stock market?
Ever. About to bust too, isn't it? It's very close, isn't it, Gary?
I keep thinking it's close to busting, but every time I say that, it goes up another 1,000 points. But I mean, yeah, there's a limit somewhere. But I mean, who would ever dream that you'd see a 20,000 stock market? You certainly wouldn't see it with Obama.
No.
You darn well wouldn't see it with Hillary. In fact, I think right now you'd be probably your retirement would be nothing. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
absolutely. I believe that totally.
And I mean, people would be wiped out.
You know,
Yeah.
people believe in him. You know, it's these people that I guess what frustrated me so much, Gary, when I see these "he's not my president" demonstrators that are out there doing what they're doing, and like you and I said, they're a minority, but you've got the media, the liberal media, building these people up, and giving us the impression that this is happening all over the country and that there's millions and millions of people doing that. That's not happening.
No.
You know.
I just got upset, at first. Then I started thinking, well, wait a minute. That's not real. That's not the real world. I
No.
mean, it's their world.
Yeah.
It's the media's world, but I'm not in that world.
I wanted so
You
much
know.
to scream at him and say, explain to me what you want to accomplish by doing this. You think Donald Trump's just going to go, okay, you people are right. I'm going to leave the White House. We'll bring Hillary back in.
Well, what are they?
You know?
Those people didn't vote
What's your
anyway.
goal? What's your goal for doing this? You know?
Well, that Wally World or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, he interviewed 15 people in a row, and not one of them voted.
Exactly.
But they're being
Exactly.
paid.
They're being
That's a
paid to
job
be
for
out
them.
there.
You know that 92% of them, think about this. We're talking about the writers in Oregon and everywhere you see, right?
Yeah.
I mean, anywhere and everywhere. 92% live with their mommy and daddy.
You know, I
What
was
do they know about life?
They know nothing about life.
They're living with their mommy
I
and
think,
daddy.
I think we ought to get together with Kraft Cheese Company and give them a little cheese with that wine, you know, because that's what they are. They're whiners, you know.
Yeah. And so, I mean, why am I going to really pay all that much attention to listen to what somebody like that?
You're right. You're absolutely
Well,
right.
Trump's not paying attention to it. He just keeps signing and
That's
keeps
right.
doing.
He just keeps going
And
right
they go
along.
in there every morning, and what do they do every day? They do exactly that. That's what they're doing. They're doing exactly what he said he was going to do. And there were steps. He's not doing any more than he said he was going to do, and he's not making less. He's going one by one, and then of course they go through and put it together and try to get it to where it's now that works.
You know, the bottom line I see, Gary, is that their worst nightmare has come true. They can't handle it.
Well,
You know?
somebody like that's. Let's look at it. It's the worst nightmare has come true, but in reality, it's the best thing that ever happened to him.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
I agree with that totally.
I mean, haven't you?
They
ever,
don't see it.
Well, haven't you ever seen an animal and you got a horse and he's stuck in the well and he fights you all tooth and nail?
Mm-hmm.
But the best thing for you is to put a rope around him and he's fighting you all the way, and then you drag him out and save his life.
Yeah.
No, he didn't think so.
No, he's fighting you tooth and
man,
nail
no,
the whole time you're doing that.
In fact, his mind is, I want to kill him.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay, but what are you really doing?
You're helping him.
The best thing that could happen
Best
to
thing
him.
that could happen.
And he doesn't know it
Yeah,
because he's a horse.
yeah.
And a lot of these people don't know it because
No.
they're useless idiots.
Thank you. I love that term. That's exactly what they are. They're
They're
useless
just-
idiots.
I mean, they just don't have the brains at this point, or the maturity, or there's something wrong with them. You know, and
They're a terrible liability to this country, for
well,
one
they're a
thing.
terrible liability to themselves.
Yeah.
Beyond that,
exactly.
you
Even
know,
more
I mean,
so.
Do those people have any idea where they would really end up? Let's say had a communist Hillary taken over, they would be on a because they all do that, forced labor. What are
Sure.
you going to do with them?
Like you said, look what happened to Venezuela.
Exactly.
Forced labor.
Right
Forced
now,
labor.
they think 12% of those people are actually starving right now.
Sure.
So, you know, I kind of look at those people and I see them all protesting. I'm seeing that on TV or something, and I look at that and I just think of that horse fighting me all the way, trying to get him out of that corral, out of that well, you know.
Not knowing that you're doing the best thing
Oh,
you
I'm
can
doing
do
the best
for
thing
it.
in the world for me. And
Yeah.
like a deer gets caught in a fence. Oh
Yeah.
my God, they'll fight you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Or a cat that you're
Yeah.
trying to rescue from a power line or
Oh,
something.
yeah. Yeah.
But you're doing the best thing for them. But they're too stupid to see it.
Perfect example of this was a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, I think. There was a bear that was near a power line, and boy, he was snarling at everybody trying to come. So what did they do? They tranquilized him. He fell to the ground. A little bit later, they took him up into the forest and let him go. Best thing ever happened to him.
Well, of course. And that's the same thing with these people.
Sure.
Now, they got a guy like Soros and a
Oh,
guy
my
like
goodness.
Obama. Obama's organized. He's got 250 units scattered around the country right now because he's an organizer. And
Sure
he's
he
staying
is.
in Washington because he wants to disrupt
That's
that.
what he did, yeah.
Because he's a globalist.
Yeah.
Okay? And he sees it. He did what he could do to destroy America.
Thank goodness it wasn't enough.
Yeah. And thank goodness it wasn't enough. Now, had Hillary got there, she would have finished it.
Sure, she would.
Yeah. And
You said we're one step away.
Well,
and
that's
you
it. I
outlined
mean,
to the whole.
and-
you outlined to all our audience exactly what happened, and it made nothing
well,
but good
you just
sense.
see what's happening because they didn't get, and we've only been 2 months into it. What do you think it would have been had she been elected?
Oh, it'd been a total disaster
where
by
would
now.
we be? You know,
No, total disaster
yeah.
after 2 months.
And so what's happening is, we'd go, a quick path to socialist, communist style government,
Yeah.
just like Cuba, just like like Venezuela,
Sure.
like Russia.
Venezuela's a great example. You know what, Gary? We're going to go ahead now and take a little break. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll come back with Gary. Time is flying as it always does when he's on my show. We're going to be back here in two. You know, we haven't taught very much or touch very much on all the things that have happened lately with Putin. I think he's an extremely dangerous man. I don't think he's a friend of ours. I never have, and I love the way Donald Trump is handling this. I love the people that he has in place to handle this. So Gary's got a few things to say about Mr. Putin. So
Yeah, and that goes along with the people that are
useless idiots.
the useless idiots. They're necessary to vote for someone like Putin.
Mm-hmm.
They're necessary to vote for someone like Hillary Clinton. Now, they're under the guise that they're going to help all the people, right? And,
Sure they do.
and treat
That's-
it equally. You know, I don't care if you're a doctor, and I don't care if you're a street, you both make the same. That's
Yeah.
communism. Socialism's a little different, only that you get to make a little more if you're a doctor than a street, but it's still owned by the government.
It's still owned by the government.
You don't
still
own
controlled
anything.
by the government.
Yeah, including your house. You don't own anything. You don't own your car or anything. Now let's talk about, well, how about the leaders? Let's talk about leaders like communist Russia.
Mr. Putin.
Those leaders led extravagant lives.
Sure they do.
All communist leaders do. Okay, including Hillary Clinton. Only she got a little bit ahead of herself. She
Yeah.
started leading it before she was there.
Yes.
But Putin, this is a statistic. Putin is worth, they figure, $200 billion.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Okay, he has 20 retreat houses scattered around to go to.
Is that right,
He has
Gary?
58 airplanes. 58 airplanes.
Well, I know Hillary Clinton sold him a ton of our uranium, didn't she?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and
know.
look what she got paid
Yeah.
by the Russians. And now she's complaining about Trump or something. I mean, it's just, they're just ridiculous. Now, Putin, like I said, he's worth that kind of money. And he's got 20, they call them palaces scattered around Russia. He's got 58 private airplanes himself.
Oh my goodness.
And
how many people has he assassinated? I'm curious
well,
about
the
that.
whole thing, how many has Hillary assassinated?
Yeah.
If you want to think about it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't see why in fact, they did get along so well that she sold him uranium.
Yeah.
And then, interestingly enough, she's Secretary of State, makes a deal with Russia for our uranium, and then her foundation, its financial statement just went up a bunch
Oh, absolutely.
because
absolutely.
she understands that deal. You know,
Well, of course she did.
and that Putin and all these communist people, you take Castro, all those leaders.
That's a perfect example.
And
Fidel Castro's a
You
perfect
take the
example.
one in Venezuela. All that these people don't realize. Yeah, they don't have anything. Are going to own. It's all owned by the state. But guess who the state is? It's the people like we have right now, which is the deep state.
Yes. Yeah.
And guess who owns it? Our own people.
Sure.
Are they represented by us voters? No. But
Not at all.
But let me tell you what they do. They get what we need to run our country as far as a sham,
Yeah.
Congress and Senate, and they're the ones running it.
Oh.
But they put the money to get those people elected, and us sitting out here thinking that we have something to do with it. Well, man, I'm fighting for this guy. I vote for that gal for this assembly. Or I'm voting for this Congress gal. Boy, she's good. And the other one's
Totally fooled.
We're sitting here like a bunch of gophers and you can't fight with one another.
Yeah.
Why don't we just sit back and say, wait a minute. All this is to keep us appeased. I want to talk to who's putting up the money for you.
Yeah. And we
Well,
know
I'm
who
not
that
owned
is.
by anybody. Oh, yes,
Oh,
you
yes,
are.
you are.
Yeah.
Yes,
In fact,
you
if
are.
you're not, you soon will be.
Yeah.
And so that's why I look at it and I say, you know, these people got to wake up and realize. And Trump knows this. You notice how he keeps always coming back. He says the American people, the American people, because what he's not saying is the elected official or the government or this or our government's going to do this or we're doing this because of our. No, he's always the American
Don't
people.
you understand what
Yeah.
what he says when he says
Yeah.
put America first? He's putting America, and he's even made the statement. You know, we the people in Donald Trump. I love that term.
Well, and then he
you know?
says like this. He says, "There's, you know, and which is true. Why am I standing here? Because you put me here."
Exactly.
So then what you have to do is feel pretty proud and a lot of pride and a lot of patriotism that not only you, but all you fellow people saved our country.
Absolutely.
All that Trump was and is a messenger.
Yeah.
And he says that over and
And he
over.
says that over and over.
And so he's not going to, You think he's going to run it the way that CNN wants him to run it?
No.
Or thinks it ought to be?
No.
Do you think he's going to run it thinking what this bought and sold congressman wants it to be?
No.
He's going to run it for the way the people want it to be.
You know, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
and we've said this before, do your own due diligence, like Gary does, and like he's actually taught me to do. Don't take face value from the media, because what you're getting is not true. What you're getting is fake. What you're getting is false. Do your own due diligence, as much as you can. Find out for yourself. Be an individual. Don't be a follower, and that's what these useless idiots are.
Right.
They're like sheep.
Exactly what they are. Sheep going to slaughter being led by a goat.
Exactly. Being led by a goat. I like that. I like that. Being led by a few goats.
CNN being
CNN being a.
well, they're just a mouthpiece,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean.
But still, they're a goat. You know.
When I see them people, I get this visualization. I've been to a slaughterhouse. Sheep are just going up there. There's that goat up there ringing a bell. He goes out there, and that sheep gets his throat slit.
And he goes back around and brings another group
Oh
in.
yeah, he brings it in. And that's what.
That's exactly what's happening.
Well, that's what
a
you're
great
saying with these
analogy,
useless
Gary.
idiots.
It is.
You look at those riders on TV and all
Uh-huh.
that. That's all they are. They
Yeah.
don't know the first thing about a government. They
That's-
don't even know how to balance their own checkbook. In fact, they probably don't have anything in the wallet
No.
except the credit card the mama gave
The
them.
only money they have is what they're getting paid for doing what
That's
they
right.
do.
That's
That's
right.
it.
I mean,
you
it's
know.
a worthless. But look at them. I mean, they look like trash, don't they?
Yeah, and it
They
just
have no
upset
pride
me, like
in
you said.
themselves.
They don't vote. They don't have a right to say anything. And my mother used to say this, you know.
Yeah.
If you don't vote, you don't have a right.
Well, not only that, look at them. I mean, they don't have any pride in themselves.
Yeah,
I mean, they look
absolutely.
like a junk.
They do. They look
You know?
absolutely terrible.
Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're kind of headed toward the end of the day here, and like I said, every time Gary comes on, that's what happens. So I'm gonna, like I do every week, because he's so enlightening to me. He's so enlightening to the audience. We need you back, huh?
You got
Come
it.
back next week, and
Yeah.
we'll continue this. This is a continuing thing.
Well, I just go around like that goat.
Oh yeah, lead some more. But we're here to inform you. We're here to. We did that so that you would make the right choices as far as is the election, and you did. Thank goodness, we made the right choices. So I'm going to end it by saying what I say every single week, and it's about our law enforcement officers, men and women who are in our law enforcement. There was several shootings this week, and I can't help but my heart goes out to the families of these people, because they're not going to be here for Easter. They weren't here for Valentine's Day. They don't get to enjoy their children. These people are Americans just like you and I, who go out and do a service that they don't get paid enough for, and that they get ridiculed for doing, and yet we've got these idiots that go out and attempt to hurt them, So we need people like me, like you, like Gary, to go up to these people and tell them how much we appreciate them, because we do. We appreciate them. I just talked to a Fresno policeman today, and he and I ended up I told him a joke, and he comes around and tells me, and we had a pleasant conversation. Talk to these people. They're wonderful people, and they're doing us a great service. I don't want to be one. I don't want to carry a gun. I don't want to have to shoot somebody, and most of us don't. But thank goodness we got people that'll do this for us. I just wish we'd get our priorities a little bit straight and pay these people what they deserve. I don't think we can. I don't think we can pay them what they deserve. But they deserve more than what they're getting. And they certainly deserve some praise from us. So until we meet joyously next Thursday, we always meet joyously. Until we meet joyously next Thursday, heaven's blessings.
Today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA, well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say